All right, well, let's get started. I'm Morgan Carey. This is our coach, AJ Hazzi. AJ is here to talk about how to scale from $500,000 to $5 million in commissions, regardless of market conditions. AJ's a phenomenal success story here in Canada. He runs a great business, and his teachings are always welcome and always super inspiring. So AJ, why don't you go ahead and take the screen, and the con is all yours.
Right on. Well, thanks for the intro. I'm just going to hit present. And we're cooking. All right. So this is a presentation on scaling, and the numbers are chosen arbitrarily because they make for a good soundbite, going from 500,000 to 5 million, or from 50 million in production to 500 million in 5 years. This is a journey I've been on. In fact, it took me 10 years, but I know now that I could do it in much less. So this is the roadmap, if you will, for how to do it in 5 years. Now, understandably, this is a pretty large animal that I've taken on here to try to distill into a 45-minute presentation. So one thing to know is that there are specific presentations in the Academy that go deeper into each of these, whether it be on conversion, or whether it be on hiring leverage, or whether it be on the different things that we're going to talk about when it comes to building out systems, et cetera. But I'm going to give a real sort of 50,000 foot overview of what it takes to scale a company at this level. And we're going to do this in 2 parts because, again, it's a big animal. So we're going to do part 1 today. We're going to talk a lot about kind of the what, and it's going to give you that overview, that roadmap. There's going to be some meat and potatoes for sure. But then the next part is going to be about how to do it, but do it profitably. So it's all the little granular things that you need to implement in order to maintain the profitability, which, again, at the end of the day is kind of the point of all this, right? Now, I don't want to assume that everybody on this call knows who the heck I am, although many of you have probably attended the Academy webinars before. My name is AJ Hazzi, and I live in Kelowna, British Columbia. I have been in real estate for 20 years, and I'm the founder of Vantage West. Vantage West is a real estate teamerage here in Kelowna with big ambitions to scale across North America. And it's also the Vantage West Academy, which is the coaching and consulting arm of Vantage West. And so those 2 things combined are what I work on today. I've worked my way out of production over my 20-year career. I no longer sell homes, but I'm in the business development and coaching business now, which I really, really love. I put out lots of content on my Instagram. So if you're interested, the VW Academy on Instagram, love to connect with you on there as well. Now, my journey has been, like I say, it's been 20 years, and I like to think I'm kind of at the 50-yard line right now of my career. I've 10x'd my business twice. I mean, kind of going from that sort of 100K income to up to $1 million, and then we've taken it from $1 million and 10x'd it again to 10 million. And like I say, I think I'm halfway to $1 billion, even though 10 million is a far cry. It's just 2 more 10x's away from getting us to the ultimate goal. And so that's really what this whole thing is about, is how do you scale? How do you continue to stay on that trajectory where you can continue to 10x your business? And I love obsessing over that stuff. And so I'm going to geek out a little bit in this presentation, and I hope you get tons and tons of value from it. Just to kind of a little social proof, so you guys know I'm not just some chump spitting theory at you. This was taken from our CRM for 2021. We did just over 10 million, as you can see. And just to give you some context, our average sale price is around 720,000, with about a 16.5 average commission for last year. Now, below that, you'll see this is actually the stats from our PPC funnel that we have, that Morgan and his group are helping us with. And you can see here, we bought just shy of 8,000 leads, down actually from the year before. We upped our call game, and you can see as you work your way from left to right through the funnel that it resulted in about 1.7 million in the commissions that we did, over $100 million in deal value, over 131 deals. Now, it may only represent 20% of our overall business, but as I'm going to share with you, having this marketing machine and having this piece that's very easily scalable is the thing that precipitates all of the other growth. It's the thing that allows you to attract more people. It's the thing that allows those people to come into a system where they can predictably expect a certain amount of opportunity, and then those people end up referring and becoming walking, talking billboards for the business. And it's what drives the growth. This is the engine room, if you will. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. This is just sort of year over year. We kind of started off small by buying, just less than 100 leads a month. And year over year, we continued to scale it up. And obviously, I just showed you the 2021 numbers where we bought just about the same amount of leads, right around 8,000, but scaled it to over 100 million in production. So it scales nicely over time. The nice thing about this type of marketing is that some of the leads you generate are, of course, longer range leads. Some of them are 2 or 3 years away from doing something. So you get this really nice compounding effect that happens over time as well. Now you may be saying, well, you just showed me from 2016 to 2021, that was a bull market. Even a turkey could fly in a windstorm. Well, one thing that some of you know about me is that we started Vantage West in the global financial crisis, that right when you could graph our grand opening with when the first headlines came out that we were heading into this, massive, massive recession, the Great Recession. And at the time, scary as heck, but the reality of it was a blessing, because bear markets are for building. And that is a truism. If there's anything out there that I believe in, is that the bear market, the market where you actually have a little bit more time and you have to be laser focused, that is where all the opportunity is. So if we believe that, if bear markets are for building, then what the heck are we building? So number one, I just talked about this, we're building a marketing machine. You have to be willing to invest right now into building your client on demand, your client getting machine. This is so, so important, because even though many people right now potentially are spending more money on marketing, that will wane within the next 6 to 12 months. And it is very much a last man standings kind of game. And if you can have the staying power and you're willing to weather the storm and pay a little bit more to acquire your customer now, that will pay off in droves when we hit the trough and then we go into the sort of sideways market for a while. And so the building of the marketing machine happens now. The next thing that we're building is a talented team. So you can't do this alone, obviously. And if the marketing machine, as it scales, you're going to want to add really talented people to the team to help you service all of the abundance and all the new clientele that you're bringing in. And this market, this bear market, is the ideal time to build a talented team, because so many people will be attracted to the abundance and the positivity that you're creating. And so it really is just the perfect time to build your team. There's going to be people looking over the fence to see if greener grass exists, and it's your job to have that nicely manicured lawn that everybody wants to be a part of. You're also going to be building systems that scale. Because if you get the first part right and you get the marketing on point and you have the talented team to handle it, there's no way to really scale it past, what a number of talented individuals can do winging it. If you really want to add scale, you need systems. And so now is the time to build them, because as we all know, the market we just came through, 2020, 2021, you didn't really have time. You were just hanging on for dear life, right? 100 miles an hour, hair straight back. There was no time to implement systems. And because the market was so good, you didn't really have to. Like, it was a slack adjuster. It was one of those things where, you could get by because the market was initiating contact. There was so much injected and built-in urgency in that market that you really didn't require systems. It was just all you could do to hold it all together, right? And now you've got a bit of reprieve. Some of you haven't, maybe you're not in a market yet where it's slowed down, but pretty well across North America, you're going to see a massive drop in the addressable market for 2023 and beyond. And so what that does is it provides both opportunity, but it also gives you a window of time to stop and actually build out a scalable system so that you can onboard and bring on clients and get them safely to where they want to go. And then you're also going to be building during this time your reputation, and in doing so, the brand equity in you and your company. And I got to experience this in 2008 and 9 firsthand, because we decided to focus both on speaking the language of the real estate investor, who was the only type of clientele that was willing to, part with their cash to buy real estate. And we also became known for having solutions for down markets for sellers, things, creative type deals, right? And so when we did that as a survival, just as a as a thing to do because we had no choice. But in doing so, we've developed this reputation for being aggressive, hungry, creative, and we attracted a ton of people and created a bunch of brand equity in the process. And the other cool thing that you're building right now is your real estate portfolio. And we're going to talk more about this, but it's really important that you don't miss this opportunity to create multi-generational wealth for your family, because you are in the perfect position to take advantage of the distressed assets, and you're going to be able to build a beautiful portfolio over this time. And this is a big piece of any success that I've had in my life. It was really based on the decisions that we made to invest and build out a portfolio when everyone else was heading for the hills, right? You have to be willing to do the uncommon thing. So that's what we're doing right now. We're building a marketing machine, a talented team, systems at scale, a reputation for having solutions in a challenging market, and our own real estate portfolios. Sound good? Good. So now is the time to invest. What are we investing in ourselves? Number one, we're investing in us, okay? This is the best time to go all in on you. Invest in programs, invest in knowledge and read books. Just pour all of your resources into yourself so that you become this like all just powerful, all knowing, seeing positivity machine. When everyone else is boohooing and heading for the hills, you are going to have the confidence and you're going to have the weapons to be able to navigate this and just attract people to you, because you're that sort of lighthouse in the storm, if you will. Next thing you're going to invest in is your business. You've got to be willing to pour resources, your time, your cash back into your business, because this is the best time to do that. Because everything right now, anything you invest in while things are challenging, is going to give you the greatest return. And that is no different for real estate as well, right? We all understand our asset class. There's going to be tons of distressed assets on sale. We have to become our own best customers. We have to be willing to invest our own capital in it. And in doing so, you become a leader in the marketplace. When they see that you are willing to put your money where your mouth is and eat your own cooking, people will feel comfortable following you, into the trenches. And that's what you need. You can't ask someone to do something you're not willing to do yourself. And if you are willing to do it, you're going to be rewarded handsomely, because these investments, whether it be in yourself, your business, or in distressed assets, are going to pay off huge when the market normalizes in a couple of years. So let's just really drive the point home on why now. There are significant upsides to a down market. The opportunities obviously are, if you can outperform the market right now, meaning if the sales are down, say 40%, and let's say you can even hang on, break, and maintain your sales or even grow by 10%, you've actually grown your market share by 50%. That's a huge piece that a lot of people miss. And when things do recover, you maintain that market share. And so that gives you an unfair advantage. So it's a huge opportunity right now to outperform the market. So measure yourself, not necessarily against what you did last year, but measure yourself against what the market's done and measure your growth that way. Now, the other upside, as I mentioned in a previous slide, was that this lighthouse in the storm attracts. It's super attractive right now to both clientele. They're going to see you as the one person who's got solutions, who's got the right attitude, who's got the right playbook for this market. So you'll be super attractive to clientele, which obviously is great, but you're also going to be attractive to talent, both real estate agents that might think to join your team, as well as rock star administrators that are at other teams where this scarcity mindset is causing them to look elsewhere because they feel like maybe the stability in their job isn't there. And as I mentioned, and I'm going to keep banging this drum, your favorite asset class, real estate, is on sale during a down market. So we really have to reframe this and have the right attitude when it comes to the market we're going into. It is a huge, huge opportunity, and it's a blessing. So be mindful of the thoughts that you think, because that is what's going to drive the things that you say. You have to be very mindful of your language. You can't wallow in all the BS. Most of the realtors that you're going to be networking with and talking with are going to be talking about how tough everything is. You really need to be the one person who speaks positivity and speaks excitement back into the market, because it's so rare. Everyone was excited a year ago. That wasn't anything different. Who wasn't excited to be a realtor in the middle of that heyday we just had. But if you can be the person who's excited and positive now, it's such a huge differentiator and it's a huge advantage. And be mindful of the people you hang around, mindful of your crew. Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with teammates and people at the office that bring you energy and that are lifting you up. It's so important right now. Your attitude is the one thing that you have to manage in down markets. Otherwise, it's just a death spiral. So a little quote here: the people that are going to be successful in this change are the ones that are investing in themselves right now. So I hope you guys have taken one thing from this presentation so far. Now is the time to go all in and invest in yourself and your business. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. I had to try to think, okay, if I was starting all over, if I lost everything and I had to rebuild what I have today, how would I do it? Now, this isn't necessarily the exact sequence of events that I did, but that's why it took me 10 years and it'll take you 5, because you have the opportunity to learn from the mistakes. You don't need to take the hard route. You can do things properly in the right sequential order. So the first thing, and I'm ashamed to say it took me a decade to figure this out, you want to find wise counsel. Now, this could be somebody in the office that is a mentor to you. It could be a coach. It could be a system that you follow. It could be a book that you read. But you need to find somebody that has been where you're trying to go, that can give you simple directions and give you the simple roadmap. Don't be stubborn like I was. Don't be the husband driving the car and your wife's telling you just ask for directions, and you're too stubborn. You're too cool to pull over and do that. And so next thing you know, you find yourself driving the wrong way down a one-way street. We've done that a few times, and you're working against yourself. Just find someone who knows how to get where you're trying to go and get simple directions. Don't be a hero. There's success leaves clues. None of us, even the successful ones, are reinventing the wheel here. We're always following someone else who did it first. The next thing you want to do really early on in the game is determine your differentiators. It's really important, if you're going to try to scale your practice, that you stand out in some way. You can't just do what everyone else is doing and expect to rise to the top. You need to find a way to articulate your differences. You need to find a way to separate yourself from the pack. And so you need what are called USPs, or unique selling propositions. And I'm going to recommend that as you figure out what your USPs are, they all lead you towards becoming the premium option in your marketplace. Okay. You want to be the most expensive in the marketplace, not the price leader, because that's a race to the bottom, as I've said in so many different trainings. The way to do that is to stack value. You want to have things like risk removals, guarantees. You want to have, sharpen your saw and be the best at, whether it be negotiating or be the best at marketing. You want to have ways that you set yourself apart from your competition, that you can demonstrate and articulate, and you want to become the premium option. You want to do this super early. It took me a while to figure this out, but when we did properly stack the value, we increased our commission, both on the listing side, as well as, because we operate under exclusive agency, we get our buyers to acknowledge that we're premium on the buy side as well. And so anytime we encounter discount brokerages or even the regular co-op fees in our market, we're actually getting about 0.5 percentage point more than what's commensurate in our industry. So huge piece of the puzzle is becoming premium and figuring out exactly how to stack that value so that it's a no-brainer for your clients. Next piece is having a written business plan. Now, a lot of people on this call, I would imagine, have a business plan that exists in their head. And I spent the first 10 years of my real estate existence doing it this way as well. And it wasn't until I followed step 1 and 2 where I actually found somebody wise, my coach at the time, who then became our director of operations, Michael Plowman, and he pushed me into writing a very detailed, really, really thick business plan for our business. And it's pretty cool. Actually, I found it the other day, the plan that I wrote in 2012. And at that time, I didn't even know what I was embarking on. I had a really clear vision of where I wanted to go. I just didn't exactly know what the process was going to be to get there, but I knew that Michael knew how to get there. So he and I collaborated together to make this business plan. And looking back on it 10 years later and seeing how precisely and how specific the things that we said in that business plan and how they all came to fruition didn't all come together on the exact timeline or in the exact sequence that we thought, but with almost uncanny specificity, we hit every single one of those targets and milestones and built the exact business that we wrote down. And there's such a power in committing your plan to writing and getting that clarity, because you won't realize it and you won't give credit to the plan as you start just moving through time. But it's that activity and that intention that you set in that business plan that set this whole sequence of events in motion that you're going to go through. And it's really important that you know with specificity where you're trying to get, and then the path will reveal itself to you along the way, particularly if you have wise counsel helping you not make missteps along the way. So business plan is super important. If you don't have one, this time of year is the perfect time to write one. Take the time to do it. I really like the Traction from Gino Wickman, the book. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And he has a 2-page business plan called the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer. You definitely want to write that down. That is a great tool for getting your thoughts. It allows you to take a 10-year vision down to a 3-year, down to a 1-year, down to a quarterly, and put in one place what your USPs are going to be, what your guarantees are going to be, all those things, all in one 2-page document. It's a brilliant thing. It can take what was a 20-page business plan that I wrote back 10 years ago and distill it down to a really handy 2-pager that you can look at again and again. Because that's the one thing. If you write a 20-page business plan, you have to invest the time to reread a 20-page business plan. But a 2-pager you can do every week. Next up, you need a rock star administrator. Now, this isn't somebody that you're trying to pay the minimum amount to, just to get by, to give you that little bit of leverage. This is the empire builder. This is the person that you take special time to hire the very best talent in the marketplace at that time. Someone who is the yin to your yang, someone who is 100 times better at the things that you're weak at. This is the person that together, this synergistic 1 + 1 is 11 is going to exist. So you really want to make sure that you find that person early and create an opportunity for them to scale with you, right? This is going to be that person that is going to be with you long-term. There will be other administrators that get added in as time goes on, but this is going to be the person that helps you develop the systems, helps you develop all the processes and procedures that are going to allow you to scale. So get that person early. I recommend, investing 15 to 20% of your gross commission income back into hiring a rockstar administrator. So you can do the math in your marketplace. If 15% of what you're making right now can afford to pay a talented person what you need to pay them to get them excited, is the best investment you'll make. Next is the marketing machine. You got to build something that's scalable, that this is going to be the engine room of your business. As I've showed you, that $100 million engine room for us is what allows us to attract the talent that we require and bring in the new clientele needed to fund a $500 million business. The licensed assistant. Now, you'll find very quickly that you are the bottleneck of all things, especially if you're still in production. You can't implement all of these other things if you're still busy showing property, you're still racing out to meet inspectors, and you're doing key handoffs, and you're doing all of these things. You need a licensed assistant as soon as you could possibly get one. And we did it through an internship program. And in one of the Academy webinars that we did, I really break down this internship program. But this will allow you to get licensed help in your business without having to give away 50% of the commission, which I think is what stops most people from taking this step. Is like, okay, if I get a license to someone to help, it's going to cost half of what I'm making and I can't afford to do that. Well, it doesn't need to. The intern would love the opportunity to earn a little while they learn a lot. And then eventually they become a teammate or an assistant, or a fully fledged associate on your team. Once you reach a certain level, now you won't be able to recruit an ISA until they can comfortably expect to influence 100 deals. So if you don't have the infrastructure to handle 100 deals, and you don't have the agent on the team, be it yourself, your licensed assistant, and maybe another good solid associate, you probably aren't ready to recruit an ISA, because an ISA wants to earn 6 figures just like you do. And in order for them to do that and for it to all fit in the comp plan, they need to be able to influence at least 100 transactions to do that. So you're not going to hire an ISA if you're only a 40 or a 50 deal team. You have to be, 100 and something plus before it makes sense. But that will be a huge piece when you have a scalable marketing machine and you have an inside sales department. Now you have something that's truly, truly scalable. So I would do that as early as you possibly can, but you got to get up to that revenue first. Once you have the ISA, you now have something that is really attractive to other licensees in the marketplace, which is qualified appointments on tap. And so if you can provide hungry associates with qualified appointments where they're not actually even having to do the prospecting, the appointments are being transferred to them a couple a week. If you have that kind of opportunity, you will be able to recruit the most talented, hungry sales associates onto your team. So that is the thing that happens after you have the recruiting, or you've recruited your ISA. Then you want to systemize literally everything. Okay, so going through this, and your operations coordinator will help you do this, but you want to create checklists and systems for everything so that you can deliver very consistent, very high level service to all of your clients, and that you can do it all in a very streamlined way so that you can handle with a small admin team a lot of business. And so systemizing everything, checklists are the way to do that. And you may not be the best person on your team to determine that, but the OC is there to help you. They put their cape on and they will help you systemize everything because that's their natural gifting. Then you want to implement a very hardcore training program, because the only thing that makes all of this stuff, the rubber meet the road, and make it so that you're not wasting money on these leads, and you're not wasting money on all this opportunity you're creating, is you need solid training. There needs to be a system or a process that people go through that to be eligible for these leads, they've come through a training program. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be you. We offer training programs. There's lots of training programs out there, but your associates and your inside sales agents need to come through a training program. So the sooner you have a training program that you put people through, it doesn't have to be your own IP, just as long as it exists. And that's a do not pass go step that people, when they come onto your team and they're onboarded, go through that. Then and only then can you truly build a scalable machine, because it's not, you can't rely on talent alone. It has got to be talent plus training that gives you the result. And then you want to become the biggest local spender in your market. You really want to become the person that is willing and able to spend the most to acquire the customer. Once you have that, then you never have to worry about money again for the rest of your life. If you're willing to obviously do it in a profitable way, but if you're willing to outspend your competition in order to attract clientele, it's game over for everyone else. And so you really want to set your sights on who's the biggest spender in our marketplace. I'm going to scale my business so that I eclipse that person, and you're going to become the biggest spender in your local market. It didn't take us very long to do it. And you can do that with the help of your vendors that you work with, right? Your mortgage brokers, your title reps, lawyers, et cetera. They all have a vested interest in this. Get them to chip in on it, create a vendor program where they're kicking in. And I do a whole training on how to do this, actually, is how to get your lenders and your title reps, et cetera, to fund some of this growth. And so that together, many hands make light work, you become collectively the biggest spender in the local market. So it's not all up to you to spend the money. Then you want to build an advocacy program, because how do you take $100 million worth of business and turn it into $400 or $500 million worth of business? Well, you need a business flywheel. And so that is where we're going next. Now, this is a fancy, no, it's actually a gambling term, I think, that trifecta from horse races, but I love to use it because it is the goal with every client is to hit this trifecta. What does that mean? Well, the paramount goal is, of course, the client needs to win. They need to get a great house at a great price and have a great experience. If you can accomplish that, then and only then have you earned the right to ask for the next two pieces, which are the introduction to people of comparable quality of themselves and their willingness to tell the world with a heartfelt, genuine 5-star review on the various channels, whether it be Google My Business, Yelp, Rate My Agent, wherever it is that you get the most traction in your market. You want to have these people so delighted with what you're doing that they're willing to tell the world. And we set that intention right away. You do this in a systematic way. You tell folks when in the first client intake that you'll know you've done your job well when you've got them an amazing property or you've sold their property and they've had an amazing experience. And you'll know you've done it when they feel compelled to introduce their people that they care about to you, as well as leave you that review. That's your measure of success. And you tell them that. You say, but I know that I have to focus, put my head down and deliver on the promises I've made today. But when I do that, I have a positive expectation that you're going to tell the world about it. Does that sound fair? They always say yes. And you set that intention. And any person that's on your sales team, they need to become good at explaining that this is the goal here. With every new client we take on, we're looking for a referral so they duplicate themselves, and a review so that that lives on online forever and continues to attract people. That's the flywheel. And that's how this pay-per-click funnel becomes this new opportunity that gives you the opportunity to give them that 5-star experience. And then in doing that, you create this advocate, this person who's giving you those reviews and the repeats, and that feeds new opportunity back up into the top of the funnel. And this is the flywheel effect. And what's so great about having these pay-per-click leads is that they can turn the heat up, they turn up the dials on this and allow this flywheel to spin faster and get you up to critical mass much, much quicker. So what is the major problem in all this? Sounds pretty easy, right? Sounds simple the way I say it. Well, the major problem is you're the bottleneck. You are the person that's trying to do everything and you just can't. I'm just going to check on the chat here. Morgan, yeah, easy peasy. Yeah, so what's the major problem? The major problem is you're standing in your own way. You're trying to do everything. You're being a bit of a control freak. I highly recommend that you acknowledge that you can't do it all and you recruit some help. So the idea here is we're going to scale your production, not your workload. I'm sure that everybody on this call would agree with the fact that the name of the game here is to have a bit of time at the end of the day to do the things that we love, right? That's the whole work to live versus live to work thing. And so as the business scales, it's less about what you need to do and more about who do we get to do these different items, right? And so this is a variation of the 80-20 rule. And actually, I got this from Dan Martell, and he explained the 10-80-10 rule, which is it's essentially you're still only involved in 20%, the stuff that moves the needle the most, and that 80% is done by other folks who are better at those things than you. But this is an interesting way of looking at it, the 10-80-10. So you're involved in the initial iteration concept of everything, right? That allows you to put your flavor on it. It allows you to put your style on it. It allows you to put your standard on it. And your creative, imaginative, all the skills that you have as an entrepreneur exist in that early 10%. Then your talented team executes 80%. That's all of the time-consuming stuff, all that systematic, detail-oriented stuff that, to be fair, you're not the best at anyway. And then you come in at the last 10% for the integration process. So you've got the iteration, the execution, and then the integration process where you come in, and again, with your flair, with your charisma, you add that last 10% in there and you integrate it into what's going on. So how does this play out in a marketing world? This might be you're there to influence the creative, you're there for the brainstorming session, you're there to figure out, okay, what's our content calendar look like for the next month? Then your team handles 80% of it, and you're there at the end to make sure that it's the right audience, the right timing, and making sure that you're putting the right hooks on at the very end. And so you're bookending it with everything that you do. The client experience, if you're working with a good licensed assistant or intern, will look a lot like this. You'll be there in the beginning to help chart the course for your clients, handle the intake, the warm fuzzies, and then they're going to execute and facilitate 80% of the transaction. And then you're there to finish the nail at the end, whether that's the negotiation or the problem solving, et cetera. So everything is this 10-80-10 rule. And you have to look at all aspects of your business in this way. Otherwise, again, you scale your workload along with your production and you become the bottleneck and you hit the ceiling of complexity. I don't care who you are. There's only so much you can do. You only have the same 24 hours that we all have in a day. So the leverage that you need, the three main ones, and there's lots. I mean, at our level now, there's huge amounts of administrative support that are required to leverage us. And even our administrators have leverage. They have VAs that leverage them. So you kind of get this leverage on leverage thing. But for most people on this call, you're 3 big hires away from being able to scale your business. You need that rock star admin. You cannot exist without someone who's truly talented. That's that empire builder, that operations coordinator who understands every aspect of your business. Then you need licensed assistants. If we're still relying on your sales to grow the business, which you will be until you reach 2 or 3 million at least, then you need a licensed person helping you so that you can be 2 places at once and you actually have the bandwidth to grow and to scale your business. And then thirdly, you need inside sales. This is a volume game. You're not going to be able to scale your lead generation and also scale the amount of calls that you're making and the follow-ups that you're making. There's no way to do that without an inside sales agent. Your agents will not follow up with these leads the same way an inside sales agent will. So when you get to the point where you could comfortably expect 10 deals a month from the leads you're generating, that's when you know to hire an inside sales agent. So the VLT formula, the Vantage Leverage Track is what that's called. That's the formula that I teach all of our coaching clients on. Basically, you want to leverage technology, make sure you find the best tech in the game. If you're on this call, you've already found some of the most amazing technology in the real estate game. Then you want to find and leverage the very best talent in the marketplace. And then you want to leverage the best tracking. You need to become obsessed with the numbers. And I'm going to geek out on the numbers here in a minute and kind of show you how it all sequentially goes. But with tech, real simple, you need a high converting IDX website. REW provides that. The CRM that you spend a huge chunk of your day in, which REW also provides. And you need to automate a lot of the follow-up. Inside of that tech stack, you need sort of high leverage outreach. So that's BombBomb, SlyDial. You need a way to text people en masse and email en masse. So that needs to exist inside your business. And then, of course, to hold it all together, the backbone is you're going to need some sort of transaction management software as well. For most people, Dotloop or Open to Close will work great for you. Our tech stack is far more complicated at our scale, but really it all comes to and from a good CRM. So make sure that you're spending time in the CRM that you have. That's the most important piece. You're not one fancy piece of software, new software away from scaling. You're actually just mastering the software that you have is my best advice. Next is talent. So we talked about that. What does talent want? Well, they want opportunity and they want runway. You can't bring on rockstar administrators or rockstar sales agents unless you can demonstrate to them that there's an abundance of opportunity and that there's a limitless runway for them. So you need to create that. You need to put a lot of time thinking about how to create that for them so that it's a no-brainer for people to want to come and join what you've got. Then you want to provide them with training and mentorship. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who can provide the roadmap for them to get where they want to go. And ultimately what they want is lifestyle, which they get through leverage. So you need to build a system that leverages them. That can be your administrators getting access to a VA that helps take a lot of the task-based stuff off their plate. That could be your agents getting access to transaction coordinators, et cetera, taking off the marketing off their plate, all those things, all those lifestyle or leverage pieces that allow them to live the lifestyle. That is what all talent wants. They want to be able to have time to enjoy it and do the things that they love to do. And then lastly, we get to tracking. You need amazing tracking in your business so that you can make data-driven decisions. Why track? It gives you the visibility, it gives you the clarity, it gives you scalability, which is what this whole presentation is about. Only when you track can you properly get to profitability, because you need to know where the holes in the bucket are. And the only way you can do that is by analyzing the data. And then it's going to ultimately give you predictability. When you know that a certain input correlates to a certain output, you then can predict your own growth and sleep like a baby at night. So that's the case for tracking. I did a whole REW Academy seminar on tracking. So find that in the Academy and watch that, because I go really, really granular on tracking. But that is a big piece of scale. If you're not tracking, you're dead in the water before you even start. Now, this is an overwhelming slide. Don't check out on me just yet. I want to show you the 10 various levers that are all interconnected. This is sort of the links in the chain of conversion, if you will. And then I want to compare side by side amateur conversion versus professional conversion. Now, starting at the top, you have traffic. Okay. Traffic's going to cost what it's going to cost. It might even get more expensive as you know, people are competing with one another right now. You can't change that, but you can change the amount of money you're willing to spend on traffic. And you'll only be confident to do that once you've determined that you're getting a comfortable return on your ad spend. But if you follow these steps, it should be pretty easy, because you'll see even at the bottom here, the amateur can expect a pretty solid return on ad spend, even doing this haphazardly. So let's look at it. On 2,000 visits to your website, that might have cost you, say, 85 cents. I use 85 cents because that's what we're currently paying. If your site converts at 5%, that'll generate you with 100 leads. Okay. Let's say in the professional side of it, you would be looking at increasing that by, say, 35%, and you're going to generate 2,700 views in this case versus the 2,000. Now, the next chain in the deal is your site conversion. If you can improve your site conversion with, say, by just a shade, right? You can improve it by removing some friction or investing in SEO is a big one. That's what we've done. That'll get your site conversion up. You can see right away with more traffic and slightly better site conversion, the amount of leads that you have has gone up almost 50%. Okay. Next in the chain is your calls per lead. You have to be tracking this. This is super important. You need to be well over 5. Excuse me. The amateur will be doing, say, 5 calls per lead, which would equate to 500 total calls being made. Let's say the pro is doing 8 calls per lead. They have slightly more leads and they're calling more. They now have 1,188. So you can see we're more than double now the amount of outbound attempts and conversations that are happening. And that is going to drive sales massively. So you've got to get your calls per lead up. Connect ratio. This is the amount of the people that you actually call, that you actually speak with. Okay. You want to track that. You want to know how many outbound attempts it takes to connect with somebody. There are ways to improve that. So if we can go from, say, 20% to 22%, just a small incremental improvement. How would you do that? You would use maybe a dialer, right? Or you would do the double call, or you would do speed to lead, right? Those are the things that move the needle on the amount of connections per call. You can easily increase that by 10% just by following a lead protocol. Now you can see already you've connected with 2.5 times the amount, right? As we work your way down here, this becomes exponential because you're getting these compounded gains. So this is why becoming a voracious tracker is so important, because if you know these numbers and then you know what the biggest sort of leverage point is, the way to turn the dials just slightly on every one of these things, you get the compounding nature. For those of you on this call, you may remember the 7 levers of geometric growth, which was one of the Academy webinars that we did earlier. And I really geeked out on this. Well, in this, I realized there's actually 10 levers, not just 7. So this is the same concept, that incremental improvement on each gives you the compounding growth. So as you can see, you work your way all the way down to the bottom. You try to influence your appointment ratio by getting really great at scripts. You try to influence the amount of show-ups that you get by having value-based reminders. Maybe you send a bomb out and you are careful to only book appointments within 3 days of them happening, because that reduces your no-show rate. You then improve your onboard ratio, meaning the amount of people that actually say, yeah, I'd love to do business with you, or that you both mutually agree to do business together. How do you increase that from 60% to 70%? It all comes down to a really great presentation. So you become masterful at a buyer's presentation or a listing presentation so that you win more business. It's simple. It comes down to a great value stack, a risk removal, and some training. Then it's like, okay, great. We've onboarded now, instead of 2.73, we've now onboarded almost 13 clients off of the marginal increase in spend, right? By getting a little bit better all the way through. The next is, how many of the people we onboard actually go to make an offer? Well, an amateur might get 40%, which means you're only making about 1 offer. The professional might just be slightly better, might get 50% of their clients to make an offer. How do they do that? By following a sales process. So this is where having a systematic, scalable system all throughout your business, people would have a chain of commitment that they would follow, which would be a presentation, then market education, out on showings, coming back to the office to debrief. All of these things are a chain of commitment. If you train on that, you'll be able to influence the amount of clients that are onboarded, how many of those goes to actually write offers. Then you have your completion ratio. As we know, not every offer we write completes. Can you influence that? Absolutely, you can. You can influence that by 10% by having a couple little things that you might control. One of which might be try to control which lender they work with, which home inspector they work with, setting great expectations with your clients in advance so that your deals don't get railroaded. Get good at looping in the uncles or the dads or whoever the sales prevention team is. Learn to loop them in early. All these little training pieces will prevent deals that you write from getting tossed in the garbage. And then lastly, you've got your average commission. And yes, you can influence your average commission by going back to what I said before, which is training people letting your clients know that you are the premium option and having the value stack to defend it so that you can, when you are doing a listing, ask 0.5% more than what the industry average is doing. When you're working with a buyer, you show so much value that you say, no matter what properties we find, my commission will always be negotiated from the proceeds and it's X. And you can confidently stand behind that premium commission. It's very easy to increase your average commission. Or to go from 10,000 to 10,500, you could just add an admin fee. But that is one of the pieces of this whole puzzle here. And all of that combined, you can see that you've generated 50 grand in revenue versus 7,600 bucks, which is a lot more exciting. The ad spend is marginally different. There's only a $600 difference, less than 600 bucks between the ad spends. It's all in the skills and the little leverage points that you learn and train on between buying the traffic and cashing the check. And you can see your return on ad spend, even as an amateur, is still almost 5-to-1, but it gets pretty exciting when you do it at the professional level and you're getting, over 2,000% return on your ad spend. So that's all super exciting to me. I hope I didn't geek out too long on this one slide for you guys. As you know, the average person buying leads is not converting very well, right? There's 0.4% to 1.2% is pretty average. That example that I just showed you was 0.7. So we're kind of right in the middle on this. My experience has taught me that the professionals, the ones that are not dabbling in this game, that are really committed, can easily get to 2% or better. We're on our pay-per-click leads, we're north of 3% now. So it's doable. You just have to have the systems and the trainings along the way. Here's some simple math hacks. So that was really complicated math. Now I'm going to give you the simple math. 1,000 leads should cost you less than your average check. So if you're paying $10 a lead and your average check is 10 grand, that would follow suit. If your average lead's costing you $20, but your checks are 20 grand, that would also work, right? So it should divide pretty evenly. You'll find all this math works really good with round numbers. Now, these are generalizations, but it would work. It works almost uncannily all the way through. You need 100 leads per agent, per mouth to feed. Whoever's relying on your marketing machine, you need to add 100 leads per person in the rotation. 10% of those leads should be qualified now. Another 10 to 20% will be qualified later, but you can expect 10% of those 100 leads to be now opportunities if you follow up and you're implementing a lead protocol. And then really your expectation is only 10% of those qualified leads will transact now. The rest will be in follow-up, so will get put into a follow-up sequence. That'll give you your 1% conversion. That'll get you to a 5-to-1 return on your ad spend right away. Okay, so those are the numbers to expect, but you have to realize it is a numbers game. So you want to know the secret to all this? The real secret sauce that I've learned after 20 years of trial and error, it's all about focus. You got to focus. And what does that stand for? Follow one course until successful. Now, candidly, I am terrible at this. I like to have multiple things going on at once. I'm working on multiple large projects. Building this marketing machine requires an immense amount of focus. And it is the one thing that you should be focused on going into next year. You can't do that if you have this goal of progressing 5 or 6 things at once, which was always what I did, 10 things at once. You need to really go, okay, blinders on. I'm going to, ignore the lady in the red dress, all these seductive things that you can work on, and just focus your energy, focus your capital, focus everything on this one thing, which is getting this marketing machine right. Focus until you're successful, until you're converting 1 to 2% of those leads. And then it's time to scale, baby. That's the exciting stuff. Now, success is not linear. It is not as sexy and straight line as people think. It really is messy, but you'll know you're on the right track by setting these different milestones for yourself and your business. And it's not always pretty, but it is definitely worth the ride. Another thing to consider too is growth isn't the straight line. It also has these inflection points where your infrastructure will break and you'll need to do things slightly different or hire additional people or change how you're approaching your business. Roughly every time you reach about 35 to 50% growth, your existing infrastructure will break. And so I've broken my scaling roadmap down into increments of 35% increases. And a 35% increase, if you were to do that every year, you would double every 2 years. If you were to do it every 6 months, you're doubling every year, right? And so you can grow really rapidly with these incremental little bench, milestones. And you always want to fund the team that you're trying to build, not the one that you have. So if you're trying to go from 500,000 to 650, that 35% jump, you want to fund the amount of administrative help, the amount of lead generation, everything that you would need to fund the team you're trying to build. And then you sacrifice profitability until you get to where you're trying to go. And then you allow the war chest to build back up again for a few months. And then same thing, you try to get to that next level and you fund the team that you're trying to build. You fund the growth that you're trying to create by getting ahead of it, hiring the new administrator, increasing the lead generation, and you continue to scale in these 35% increments. And you'll never fully break your organization. You'll never have to completely revamp it. It's just these little incremental growth points. And you can stagger those checkpoints as close together or as far apart as you want, whatever you're comfortable with. But that is the key, is having these little milestones that are about 35% higher. That's it. I got through it in 55 minutes. I did want to leave a little bit of time for questions. I put out content like this on the Vantage West Academy all the time. So if you're interested in that, join our Facebook community. We have over 700 members now. I really need to update this slide. I keep showing them I'm with one member. We're over 700 people in there now, and it's a great community. And I continue to add these types of live streams and stuff, smaller, shorter trainings. But I think you'll find tons of value in that. Love to see you there. I got 5 minutes for questions. What do you got?
Also, just a reminder, I'm going to post it in again. We've already got 13 registrations from this session to the next session. So there is a continuation. I think first question for me, what can we look forward to in the next session there, AJ?
The next session is all about profitability. So I'm going to go into specifically how much should you be spending at different intervals? How do you protect the profit? What does profit first accounting look like? How do you put that into play? And so that you're constantly able to fund your next, like how I just finished there is the perfect segue into where we're going, is how do you fund these various jumps and these quantum leaps in revenue, but without doing what I did, which was allowing your business to be this cash eating monster where you continuously defer any potential profit or any potential benefit from the growth. You can have it both ways. You can carve out a nice margin for yourself and fund your own growth, but you have to be disciplined. And that's something that I've learned doing things the wrong way. And I'm super excited to teach it to you guys so you can avoid that painful mistake and do it right from the get-go.
So guys, there is a chat. If you want to use the chat to everyone, if anyone has any questions. I know I have another question if nobody else does, but I'll wait and see if anyone has a question on the content from today. So go ahead and pop it in the chat. And as a reminder, this will be recorded and will be made available through the REW Academy as well. So if you need access, just let Eliana know. And if there are no more questions, I'm going to ask just one more question because I'm super interested in this for my global MLS project. And that is, where can we get more info on how and getting lenders to help contribute to your, like you mentioned that earlier in the session, like you said, you do a training on how to get lenders to contribute to your ad spend.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to do a specific training for this group on that. It's essentially based on 15%. So I show them and I demonstrate through, I say, look, I'm not trying to get you to zero cost my ad spend. What I'm trying to do is to get you to participate in this growth. I put 15% of my own revenue back into marketing. I'm going to recommend that you do the same. And I think we can both agree, or you can tell me otherwise if you have a better plan, but I think the real estate side of things is kind of the sharp end of the spear. And jumping onto an already existing proven marketing campaign and adding more gas to that versus trying to take your 15% and reinvent the wheel is a better spend. And guess what? You don't have to do it. I'm already doing it. So I'm taking that off of your plate. You're giving me 15% back, whether that be basis points or whether that be 15% of net. That's for you guys to figure out. But the idea is that 15% of the growth, gross, whether it's your title reps or your mortgage brokers, they should be more than happy to reinvest that into growth. And you're doing it in a way where you're not saying, look, I'm trying to zero cost what I'm doing here. We're trying to grow this and have more opportunity. And so that it scales.
It's almost like half price leads for each of us because we'd buy them anyway, or double the leads for the same price, whichever way you want to look at it, right? If you did a shared sort of, if you were equally contributing. David Doyle asks, how many calls per lead do you make to get the highest conversion rate?
I've found that north of 10 is where all the gold is. It's a struggle because we generate so many leads. It's a struggle to get that up there, but north of 10 for sure. You'll find the teams that are relentless about squeezing the most out of little have the best result. The mistake I made was I added leads too quickly. You really want to make sure that you've exhausted the leads you've got before you can start pouring more and more on. And the way to do that is just to set up a lead protocol that says every lead we get, if it's a good phone number, we're not dudding it until we've tried it at least 10 times from different angles, right? Whether that's texts, emails, phone numbers, calls, everything, but you really want to be making sure there's north of 10 touches on every lead before you move on.
And in that, do you count a double call as 2? I'm assuming you do.
No.
Double call is 1?
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. I think that is it for questions, and we are exactly at time. Again, I know it is American Thanksgiving. So for any of our American friends that joined us, thank you so much for taking the time today. And we will again be sending this out, also a recording to the folks who couldn't join us today. We actually had 92 people register. So I know a lot of folks are probably running around trying to get their last minute holiday stuff in. So we'll make sure they get that session. We'll also make sure we get this invite out to everybody for the next webinar. AJ, thank you so much. This was awesome as always. I've been actually posting screenshots, hope you don't mind, on social, some of the good stuff. So that was great. Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Cheers, Martin. Thanks. Bye, Ron.